Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to dig into something quite sensitive, actually.
Yes, potential consumer issues within the Japanese funeral industry.
That's right. We've got a report covering, 2020 to 2024? It uses data from the National Consumer Affairs Center, industry groups, news reports.
All sorts of sources, yeah. And our goal is really to unpack the common problems people run into.
And, why they happen. Because funerals, they're obviously major life events, but ones you don't plan often.
Exactly. And usually under very difficult emotional circumstances. So understanding potential pitfalls beforehand, it can really help.
Okay, let's jump in. The number one issue flagged seems to be unexpected costs.
Yeah.
High bills people weren't prepared for.
Yes, that's the most frequent complaint hitting the Consumer Affairs Center.
Why does that happen so often?
Well, it's often a mix of things. Sometimes it's like an initially low quote, maybe an online ad that looks incredibly cheap.
Bait and switch, almost.
Sort of. The final cost can end up 3-4 times higher. Or it's additional charges that weren't clearly explained up front.
Like what kind of charges?
Things like needing more food or favors if attendance is higher than expected. Or maybe the body needs to be kept at the mortuary longer. Even transport fees can vary.
Oh, okay.
We even saw examples of charges for things like body transport that, well, should technically be covered by public funds.
So a lack of clarity seems key here, which I guess leads into the second point.
It does, yeah. Unclear estimates and just not enough explanation.
So they give you a price, but not what's actually in it.
Pretty much. You might get a quote listed as just a lump sum, no itemized breakdown of services.
It's just verbal explanations.
Often, yes.
Yeah.
Or very minimal written detail. And if you don't know much about funerals, how can you possibly judge if it's fair or compare it?
Right. Makes sense. It's hard to compare apples to apples.
Exactly. Now, another interesting area is family funerals. You'd think smaller might mean simpler.
But not always.
Apparently not. The issue seems to be a lack of a clear, agreed-upon definition for family funeral.
So arguments about who gets invited.
That's what the reports suggest. Disagreements between the immediate bereaved family and, say, other relatives about who should attend, it can cause real friction, feelings of being left out.
Especially if some relatives have more traditional ideas about, how big a funeral should be.
Precisely. They might feel a smaller service is somehow disrespectful.
Okay, moving on. Some of these tactics sound quite predatory. Aggressive sales.
Unfortunately, yes. Taking advantage of people's distress and the fact that decisions need to be made quickly.
Pushing expensive options.
Expensive plans, unnecessary extras. Some reports even mention funeral homes recommended by hospitals.
Oh.
Yeah, using the fact that they already have the deceased's body as leverage, essentially pressuring families into signing a contract.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
concerning.
It is. And it's worth remembering, a hospital recommendation doesn't guarantee a good price. Sometimes extra fees for just accessing the hospital or police station get tacked on.
And what about those online funeral brokers? You mentioned misleading ads earlier.
Right. That's trouble spot number 5. These websites advertise super low prices, no extras, but then...
Hidden charges pile up.
Exactly. Various surcharges get added, and the final bill is much, much higher. It potentially even breaks rules about misleading advertising.
Plus, if they're just online, accountability might be tricky.
That's a risk, yeah. Some don't have physical locations, so quality control, who you complain to, it can be unclear.
Okay, so beyond the money side, what about the actual service quality?
Another big area of dissatisfaction, unfortunately. Complaints range from, staff being rude or unhelpful.
Not what you need at that time.
Definitely not. Lack of consideration, basic operational errors like setting up the altar wrong, missing flowers you ordered.
Simple mistakes that are still upsetting.
Yes. And then there are thankfully rarer but much more severe incidents, like mixing up bodies before cremation.
Oh, that's terrible.
It is. The industry does have things like certifications and guidelines, but clearly problems happen on the ground.
What about contracts? Cancellation issues?
Yep, another point. Ambiguous terms, disagreements over verbal promises. And cancellations can be tricky, especially with those pre-need contracts, the Gojokai ones.
Pre-need, like paying in advance.
Right. Canceling those can involve complicated procedures, high fees, and limits on what the money you paid in can actually be used for. There have even been legal cases.
And package deals, the all-in-one plans.
They seem simple, but often aren't. The XX yen plan might sound clear, but what exactly is included?
Hidden limitations.
Often. Like restrictions on the coffin quality or the type of altar, how long the body can stay at the mortuary, how far they'll transport, leading to extra costs again.
It feels like a recurring theme.
It really is. Even specific items cause trouble. Poor venue conditions, favors not being good quality, even issues coordinating with religious figures.
And lastly, a really sensitive one, body storage and transport.
Hugely sensitive. Problems here include, again, poor explanations of extra costs for longer storage or unclear transport fees, and the worst cases, errors like body swapping or just disrespectful handling.
So wrapping this up, it seems the reports paint a picture where confusion and unexpected costs are quite common in the Japanese funeral industry.
They are, especially given the emotional vulnerability of consumers at that time. And these newer trends like family funerals and online brokers, they bring their own unique challenges too.
It really underscores the need for clarity.
Absolutely. Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener. Knowing all this, what steps might you think about taking proactively?
To ensure clarity, avoid problems? Maybe when planning for yourself or helping loved ones?
Yeah. Could it be starting conversations earlier, asking for really detailed written estimates, maybe looking into pre-planning resources? Just something to consider.